What's going on, y'all? I'm Czar, and in this video, we're going to be reviewing the United UT Twin 87. Just for fun, let's say the full name of the product. United UT Twin 87 Twin Circuit Large Diaphragm Condenser Microphone. So this is a U87 style mic, and it checks a lot of boxes when it comes to mics that are a recreation of classic gear. Of course, this case being the U87. The twin circuit topology in this mic allows you to switch between a modern style U87 and a vintage style U87. And United didn't stop there. Popular mods for U87s have been built into this microphone. It has a RF filter as well as true cardioid mode. So, full transparency, United sent me this mic to review. I'm going to be letting you hear it on some different type of mic pre's, as well as singing vocals, some rap vocals, and some singing and guitar. But first, let's take a closer look at the mic. So here's the box that the UT Twin 87 comes in, and open it up. We've got a nylon pouch for carrying it and a United sticker. I do wish the pouch had the United logo on it just to be more personable. I guess you could put the sticker on there if you want. Underneath, we've got the microphone and the shock mount. The shock mount does come with a mic stand adapter as well as some extra bands for the shock mount, which is nice. All right, and here we have the mic United logo on the front, as you can see from the pictures as well. Polar patterns, we've got all three polar patterns, and in cardioid, this will put this mic into a true cardioid mode, which is one of the mods that's built into this mic. There's nothing you have to do to activate that. Just whenever you switch it into cardioid, it's going to put it into that true cardioid mode. We got the modern and vintage switch, which is the real star of this microphone to me. 80 hertz high pass filter and a 10 dB pad. So this is what I call a full featured microphone. We've got all three polar patterns, a roll off high pass filter as well as a pad. Getting some specs out the way. This has a standard frequency response of 20 hertz to 20K. The SPL is 117 dB, 127 with the pad. We've got a very impressive 10 dB self noise here as well. All right, so before we get into how this mic sounds, I want to go over some of the specs and just internals of this mic because I think it's really interesting. So let's check that out. All right, so we're here on United's site, and like I said, I just want to go over some of the internals of this microphone because it's really interesting to me. First, I'm going to read just their description of the vintage and modern mode. In vintage mode, the UT Twin 87 polarizes its capsule directly by the phantom power voltages, taking advantage of the insulated dual backplate capsule design, just as the earliest 87 style microphones did. The high impedance and de-emphasis circuitry use all the same components choices as the original. This yields a slightly warmer, softer, and forgiving sound. For modern mode, it says the capsule is polarized at a higher voltage using an FET oscillator circuit as found on the later revisions of the classic mic, yielding a higher capsule sensitivity and feeding a hotter signal into the amplifier circuitry. Its high impedance and de-emphasis circuitry likewise uses all the same component choices as much later 87 style designs. This yields a louder, slightly brighter, and more articulate response with an extended top-end reach and a more up-front character. Okay, so they've described the sound of the vintage and modern mode, and I know we haven't got to the examples yet, but I just want to say I feel that they were spot on with the descriptions. The vintage mode, before even reading this, and using it in vintage and modern, and then reading this, I do agree with them that the vintage mode sounds warmer, softer, and more forgiving, and the modern is slightly brighter, more articulate, extended top end, and more up front. The modern mode is definitely a few dB hotter than the vintage mode. But my point with this is that, a lot of companies, when they describe their gear and then, I use it and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't sound like that. This doesn't sound like what you're describing it as. But what United is describing these modes as are spot on to me. Looking at the capsule, the UT Twin 87 features United's own custom-made K87 style capsule. This means that they made this capsule themselves, which again is impressive to me. The transformer. This is also impressive and interesting as well. United looked at many iterations of the original German output transformer used in this type of microphone, drawing inspiration particularly from some of the older, larger frame designs. Knowing that the size of the transformer can sometimes be a limiting factor, United developed their own custom wound part, which has a nearly 4 times the metal mass found in any 87 style microphone. So United made their own transformer for this mic, which certainly couldn't have been cheap in my opinion, because they could have easily went to, say, a company like Cinemag and had them make a transformer they felt fit this mic, but instead they designed their own transformer. Just this last paragraph here: United's custom wound US made transformers built with large all nickel laminations. While they could have used a smaller or less expensive transformer, they simply refused to compromise. So that's interesting to me that they made their own transformer for this mic and just didn't go get another company's. Like I said, I'm just using Cinemag as an example because it's a popular transformer company. But yeah, they could have just went out and got those, but they created their own. And lastly, if we scroll down just a little bit more, I love this tagline: "It's not just another mic, it's a United." Really love that. This paragraph here in the middle gives you more on that true cardioid mode if you want to go to the site and check that out. All right, let's get into how this mic sounds. All right, before we get into how this sounds, I want to quickly talk about the other mod on this mic, which is the RF filter mod. This is a filter that's placed on the output of the microphone that blocks RF frequencies. For this example, or all of these examples you're going to hear, I had that off. You can turn it on through a series of switches inside the microphone. It's off by default. I never turned it on. I just didn't think that it would make that big of a difference, so I left it off. But all of these examples you hear, it is off. All right, so this is an artist named Virgos. This is some rap vocals. We have one take through 2 different preamps simultaneously. Used a mic splitter here. It's going to have the Empirical Labs Mic E without any saturation and the Avalon 737. These 4 tracks you see here are one take through 2 preamps on modern, and then one take through the 2 preamps on vintage. And before I play this, parental advisory is advised. I think that's how you say that. But yeah, we've got some cuss words here, so just a heads up before I hit play. All right, we're going to start with the Mic E in modern, and then we'll play this Avalon 737 in modern, and then I'll do the Mic E in vintage and the 737 in vintage. So I did say the modern is a little hotter, so I did bring it down in volume a little bit to try to level match it here. All right, here we go, starting with the Mic E in modern.
Yeah. I don't trust niggas, I don't trust no bitch. Nigga fuck rap, nigga fuck your list. Real life happen, we ain't living in a glitch. Make your money, young nigga get rich. Loot chase, searching for a blue face. Ain't got a blue face, now I got a blue face. About to catch a new case,
And the 737 in modern.
Yeah. I don't trust niggas, I don't trust no bitch. Nigga fuck rap, nigga fuck your list. Real life happen, we ain't living in a glitch. Make your money, young nigga get rich. Loot chase, searching for a blue face. Ain't got a blue face, now I got a blue face. About to catch a new case,
All right, and the Mic E in vintage.
Yeah. I don't trust niggas, I don't trust no bitch. Nigga fuck rap, nigga fuck your list. Real life happen, we ain't living in a glitch. Make your money, young nigga get rich. Loot chase, searching for a blue face. Ain't got a blue face, now I got a blue face. About to catch a new case,
And the Avalon 737 in vintage.
Yeah. I don't trust niggas, I don't trust no bitch. Nigga fuck rap, nigga fuck your list. Real life happen, we ain't living in a glitch. Make your money, young nigga get rich. Loot chase, searching for a blue face. Ain't got a blue face, now I got a blue face. About to catch a new case,
All right, so now we're gonna take out. With this, I prefer the Avalon 737, so we're gonna hide the Mic E's here. And now I'm gonna play this, and I'm gonna flip back and forth between the modern and vintage so you can hear the immediate difference.
Yeah. I don't trust niggas, I don't trust no bitch. Nigga fuck rap, nigga fuck your list. Real life happen, we ain't living in a glitch. Make your money, young nigga get rich. Blue chase, searching for a blue face. Ain't got a blue face, now I got a blue face. About to catch a new case,
All right, so let's talk about how this sounds. For me, I prefer the modern to the vintage on this vocal. I love the openness, and I mean, like I talked about the vintage and modern, how they described it is how I'm hearing it here. Modern has a more open top end and definitely sounds more forward, more presence. And the vintage is warmer. High end is rolled off a little bit, so it's a little darker. I prefer the modern just for the openness for this vocal. And I mean, what I've got here, normally with the rap vocals, I've got to cut some mud and I've got to add some presence. And that is done on this vocal. The low mids are clear. The presence is already there. It's forward sounding. Not much, if anything, do I really have to do to this vocal if I was going to put it into a mix. All right, let's move to some singing vocals. So this is a singer-songwriter named Leia, and I've got no other processing on these tracks except for a little bit of reverb. And same deal here. We got one take through two preamps. Preamps of choice on this vocal is the La Chapelle 500 DT, which is a 2 preamp. I've got it set at the 50-50 12 o'clock mark, which means that this preamp is going to be half solid state and half tube. Other preamp is the Phoenix Audio Ascent preamp, which is a transformerless input and transformer on the output. Going to do it a little different this time. I'm going to play the La Chapelle in vintage first, and then we'll play the La Chapelle in modern, and then we'll do the Phoenix Audio in vintage and the Phoenix Audio in modern. We're going to start with the La Chapelle in vintage.
Broken places, my love will mend it. I wanna hold you till the hurt is finished.
And La Chapelle in modern.
Broken places, my love will mend it. I wanna hold you till the hurt is finished.
Phoenix Audio in vintage.
Broken places, my love will mend it. I wanna hold you till the hurt is finished.
And the Phoenix Audio in modern.
Broken places, my love will mend it. I wanna hold you till the hurt is finished.
All right, so with this vocal, I think it's easier to hear the difference between the modern and vintage. Again, just as United described it, the vintage is warmer, the modern is more upfront, brighter, and open sounding. I want to also play, let's go from about right here. So this is the PreSonus Quantum Pre in modern, and the track below to be the PreSonus Quantum Pre in vintage. Just so you can hear how this mic sounds going into a interface preamp. This is the PreSonus Quantum Preamp in modern.
Started, no more chills, you're no longer guarded, yeah.
And the PreSonus Preamp in vintage.
Started, no more chills, you're no longer guarded, yeah.
All right, so there is some singing examples. For this vocal, I can really go either way. If I want that warmth, I can go vintage. If I want that bright and open, I can do modern. I think for this, it's just a preference of what's going to fit the song better. I think for this one, I really like the vintage mode. I'm really liking that warmth in the low mids that you're getting on the vintage on this vocal for this track, especially when she's doing that airy part, which you don't need the modern to really bring that out. You still get that in the vintage. All right, let's take a listen now to some vocals and guitar. So this is a singer-songwriter named Me, and for this vocal, no other processing, but a little bit of reverb is on it. And the UT Twin 87 is going into a Rupert Neve 511 500 series preamp, and I do have the silk on at 100% for these examples. The top take is going to be modern, and the bottom one, the blue, is going to be vintage. All right, so let's take a listen. We're going to start with it in modern.
If the bow breaks, it wasn't strong at all. We only expect beliefs to fall, leaping into dead foliage, getting lost in the wilderness. If the bow breaks, it wasn't strong at all. We only expect beliefs to fall, leaping into dead foliage, getting lost in the wilderness.
And in vintage.
If the bell breaks, it wasn't strong at all. We only expect beliefs to fall, leaping into dead foliage, getting lost in the wilderness. If the bell breaks, it wasn't strong at all. We only expect beliefs to fall, leaping into dead foliage, getting lost in the wilderness.
All right, so between these two, I prefer the modern. And interestingly, so I put the silk on at 100% on the Neve 511. And if you're familiar with the Neve 511, that silk adds high frequency to your signal. I wanted to see if adding that silk at 100% would make it too bright, and it certainly didn't. It still didn't get harsh on the top. It didn't get sibilant. So really impressive that even adding that saturation from the silk on the modern, it still didn't end up being too much on the high end. But yeah, between these two, I prefer the modern. The vintage is sitting back a little bit, as I've experienced with everything I've recorded in that vintage mode. But having that modern and vintage switch, with vintage you get more warmth, modern you get more open, and that's generally what I want when I'm recording vocals. I want something that's either going to be open or warm. So, and of course there are some mics that actually do both, but I love having that choice of modern and vintage here with this microphone. I think it can suit a lot of different situations, especially where you don't have to pull the mic off and put another mic up, but you can just flip the switch and get a different sound. All right, let's get into my final thoughts on the UT Twin 87. So final thoughts on the UT Twin 87. So let's answer the question, does this sound like a U87? My short answer is, I don't know. I don't have a Neumann U87 to compare it to. My long answer is, it absolutely reminds me of a U87. So quick story, the first time I ever used a U87, I went to Blackbird Studios here in Nashville, and I rented an Avalon 737. And I was recording a rap artist, and when I turned the mic on, turned the phantom power on the Avalon, had the artist step in the booth and just had them checking the mic. When he started talking, it was so clear coming out of the speakers what I was hearing that it just sounded like he was in the room with me. Fast forward to me using this mic with the rapper I let you hear on it, Virgos. We went through an Avalon 737, and I had that same experience again, where when he just started speaking into the microphone, it was just so clear that it sounded like he was right in the control room with me. So yes, this very much reminds me of a U87. So let's get into what I don't like about the UT Twin 87. The only thing I don't like is that it doesn't come with a flight case. Personally, I feel more important bringing a mic into the studio with a flight case versus a nylon pouch or box. But I get it. You want to keep the price down, and this is coming in at $699. I think it was important for United to hit that price point because I think this mic is going to rival the Warm Audio 87. They both come in at $699, and I think them hitting that price point was to make sure that they can go up against the Warm 87. So what I do like about the mic, obviously the sound. in modern mode, this has a very forward, bright, and open sound, but even though it is bright, it's not too bright, and it never sounded brittle or harsh on the top end, which is really impressive. The low mids in modern or vintage was clear, it never got muddy, and vintage, you get more of a pushback sound in my opinion, roll off the high end a little bit. So even if you felt it was a little bright, you can switch over to vintage and get a different voicing that, to me, you can hear the difference between. A lot of gear has, a switch that does this or that, and then you switch it and you're like, I don't really hear a difference. Definitely hear a difference with this, and both voicings on here are very usable. I could see, recording your lead vocals in modern and then background vocals in vintage. I can very much see a scenario like that. But, the sound that I get out of this microphone needs very little, if all, EQing, which is great. This is a mic that you can put into a preamp, and really any preamp that I've tried it with I've gotten good results. But you put it in a preamp, you record with it, and you're 90, 95% there with what you've recorded already, especially if you track with a little bit of compression. It just makes very little needed in the mixing phase when you record this mic, which to me is a sign of a great microphone. Now, we'll be honest, I wasn't crazy about the design of the mic at first, but it did grow on me with the more boxy top and more slender bottom. It is a different look that I definitely had to get used to, but I do respect the fact that they did something different with the design of this microphone. I do like the product name going across the top of the microphone. It definitely is a nice touch. But overall, a huge fan of this microphone. I think at $699 is a good price point for it. And I think it could fit in anyone's mic locker, especially if you're looking for a U87 style mic. Someone on TikTok had told me, they were surprised I didn't have a U87. And I said the reason I don't have a U87 is because it's a cliche piece of gear to me. And I don't like cliche pieces of gear. At the beginning of this review, I said that this checks a lot of boxes for me when we talk about clones. As y'all know, I'm not a fan of clones unless you make it better or do something different. So I love that United didn't say, hey, this is a one-for-one creation of a U87. This is their take on a U87, and they did something unique and different with the twin circuit topology in here, which I am a fan of. But that's my review of the UT Twin 87. Definitely comment and let me know your thoughts on these examples that I shared today. And I've got a link in the description. This mic is available at Front End Audio if you want to check it out and learn more about it or pick it up. If you like this video, I appreciate a thumbs up. And if you want to continue to see content from me, then you know what to do. Any questions, comments, let me know, and I'll catch y'all next time.